MSNBC has been doing terrible in the cable rankings for a long time now. And so, in order to fix that, the network is trying to shake things up. Now, unfortunately, their idea of a shakeup is hiring somebody like Chuck Todd. Oh boy. So, Politico's Mike Allen actually originally reported on Facebook, of all places, that Meet the Press host Chuck Todd will be getting an hour-long show on MSNBC to discuss and analyze politics. Now, further information has come out since that post was made that he will be replacing Ed Schultz from The Ed Show at 5 o'clock. So you're replacing Ed Schultz with Chuck Todd. Oh, disaster. All right. So Chuck Todd, as you know, recently also had a show on MSNBC that he left to host Meet the Press after, of course, they canned David Gregory. Now, why? Well, MSNBC says that they're heading in the direction of more straight news. Because, as I mentioned earlier, they suck in their ratings. Their ratings were awful. Now, in my opinion, they didn't suck because they were too left-wing, as a lot of people seem to think, as Phil Griffin seemed to have thought. No, they sucked because they're establishment media. They're about protecting the establishment and doing DC Beltway politics. And of course, the guy who perfectly sums up DC insider culture is none other than Chuck Todd. The whole reason that your network is terrible is that you're too friendly with the establishment. And here you go, hiring another member of the establishment. They're not getting it. They don't get it. Look, if there's anything that I'm sure of, is that people have had it with DC insiders. They have. Look, if they actually want MSNBC to grow into something decent, maybe they should start by telling the fucking truth instead of engaging with partisan hackery. Why don't you challenge your guests? Ask politicians tough questions. Fight bullshit talking points like you're supposed to. But see, that's the problem, you say. You do that and nobody comes in your show anymore. Chuck Todd was the one that says that. Well, if I ask politicians hard questions, they won't come on my show anymore. So I have to give them softball interviews. That's the fucking problem. That's the whole problem. Look, if they're too fucking weak to answer real questions, then maybe they don't belong on the public stage. Go be a fucking coward. Go ahead and run to your office with your lobbyist friends. Fuck off. For all I care. If you're too weak to answer an actual question, maybe there's something wrong with our media. And actually, there is something wrong with our media, especially with cable news. They don't challenge their fucking guests, and it's all because they want access. Access, right? You give softball interviews, you buy access. Access buys you better advertising. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. And advertisers are apparently much, much more important than actually giving people honesty and truth and integrity. Of course. Look, man, if President Obama or whoever's the president does something wrong, says something ridiculous, you're supposed to challenge them. If a politician says something wrong, or they lie, they give flat-out lies, you're supposed to call them out on it. You're supposed to challenge them. You're supposed to follow up. You're actually supposed to do your fucking job. Now, that is something Chuck Todd isn't really interested in doing. For example, I give you a Morning Joe panel a couple of years ago on the Affordable Care Act. Now, Chuck Todd said, look, man, it's essentially not my job to point out Republican lies. Now, later on, he kind of backpedaled, right? And it said, look, it's not my job to sell White House policy. Dude, you were on a panel where the Republican on the panel was lying. Bold-faced lie. Death panels. Bullshit. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm not going to challenge him. That's what you say. Democrats say this. Republicans say that. You decide. I'm just here to be neutral. Fuck that shit. Debunking bullshit lies. From the other side, it's not selling White House policy. It isn't. And look, I got problems with the Affordable Care Act. I do. It's not perfect. And when I find something that's a problem, I point it out, as anybody should. But I also debunk some of the bullshit Republican talking points, because that's my job. And it's also Chuck Todd, David Gregory, all of them. It's supposed to be your job. Do your fucking job. And on that, corporate media has absolutely failed. Absolutely. Look, man, MSNBC and other stations, other news stations, they should be challenging the government all the time. Not just in MSNBC's case, when the opposing party is in the White House or in power. Or what Fox does when there's a Democrat in power. You notice the dynamic here. Each station goes to protect their respective political party in office, instead of actually going after the truth like they're supposed to. They're trying to be the Fox News of the left, MSNBC. And unlike conservatives, liberals actually want the truth. We don't want talking points regurgitated and then projectile vomited at us. We don't want that. We want the fucking truth. And at the end of the day, media is supposed to be the watchdog of the government, not the lapdog. Unfortunately, that's what we have. And unfortunately, that's what MSNBC missed the memo on that. They missed it. And they missed the memo on what actually makes a network popular. You know what makes a network popular? Being honest with your audience and telling the truth to the best of your ability. That's what grows a network. Not this fixation with being neutral. You got to stop worrying about being neutral. Oh, Democrats say this, Republicans say that. You decide. No. That's not news. All that leads is to a platform where each side can spout ridiculous talking points. That is not news. That's not informing the American public. That's not news. And unfortunately, MSNBC thinks that it's going to get better ratings by being neutral. Yet I got news for you, man. The facts are not neutral. And speaking of facts, here's another fact for MSNBC. You guys aren't going to get anywhere, by hiring partisan political insider hacks like Chuck Todd. How's that for a fact?